As a pro translator who loves attending cocktail parties, I'm always asked the same question every single time. How many languages do you speak?
Ich befürchte, dass keiner von Ihnen ein einziges Wort Deutsch spricht. Es sind Freunde aus Italien.
Unfortunately, the sad and rather dull and unimpressive reply is not very many. You see, I'd love to be able to boast that I can speak 10 or 12 languages fluently, or even 29 languages like some YouTube polyglots claim. But I'm practically, to be honest, a monolingual beta. But more on that in a minute. You see, as a pro translator, I spend my days translating documents, written documents. And not only that, formal written documents, legal contracts, corporate annual reports, political speeches, newspaper articles, that kind of thing. Although I've been in the pro translation business for over 30 years, and I've learned to translate from several different languages during that time, such as French, Dutch, Spanish, Italian, Portuguese, even Greek. The fact is that I can't actually speak those languages, at least not all of them. Unless you count Italian hand gestures while I'm on holiday in Florence. What? How is this even possible? Good question. You see, pro translators are actually pretty good at picking up the basics of a new language for translation purposes. Especially if the language is already related to a language that they already know. So in my case, learning to translate from Spanish, Italian, even Portuguese was pretty easy, since they are all Romance languages. They're related to French. Greek, different story, but I'll talk about that in another video. And moreover, since translators work with written documents, or especially in my case, formal written documents, these documents tend to be very similar across these different languages and in the different countries where these languages are spoken. So I know what to expect when I'm reading a contract or reading an annual report. I know the kind of language, or I know the kind of topics that are going to come up in those documents, and I look out for them. And then I can study specifically the vocabulary for those topics. And of course, these days, with the internet and all that, it's much easier to do the necessary research. When I started off 30 years ago, things were quite different. Doing research was much more time-consuming and less, and just much more difficult. We had to use actual books and dictionaries, reference books, encyclopedias, dictionaries, of course. These days, it's much easier. So basically, the idea is, as a translator, you can get up to speed quite quickly in another language if it's related to one you already know. And if the translation you're doing in that language is in the same domain or subject matter as something that you're already familiar with. So to answer the original question, in addition to speaking my native American, I speak pretty good French and relatively mediocre Dutch. That's it. So the other languages, not so good. In fact, not at all. I have no idea what my level is in French or Dutch. I've never been tested officially. Maybe later I'll do a video attempting to speak those languages, and you can judge for yourself. So, that's the sad truth. In fact, that's one of the reasons I started this channel, because I want to start learning languages to actually speak them, not just translate from them. And first up is Russian. I'm currently doing the 100-day Russian challenge, and I will be documenting my process and my progress right here on this channel. So feel free to learn Russian right along with me, if you're interested, or to use the same methods, the same approaches, the same tactics, if you like, the same hacks, to learn whatever language you're interested in learning. My goal is to achieve a decent conversational level within 100 days. What does conversational mean? That means I can literally hold a conversation with a native speaker without creating too much friction in the conversation. So the native speaker will understand what I'm saying, I'll understand what he or she is saying, and we can have actually a conversation. I'll be able to produce the language, I'll be able to speak the language with a decent enough accent that it doesn't cause too many misunderstandings. And I'll be able to understand fluent native speech from my conversation partner. That's the idea. And I'll be documenting this. Once the 100 days are up, I will film a live conversation with a native speaker. My goal is to be able to have a 20-minute conversation. So 20 minutes, we'll be getting way beyond, oh, hello, how are you, what's your name, how are you, where are you from? That's where we start, but then it will go off into other topics. That's the idea. Like a real conversation you would have with somebody you just met, or maybe with somebody you've known for a while. Who knows? But the idea is to have a real conversation. I will, of course, be making mistakes. I'll probably mispronounce plenty of words, but the idea is that these mistakes and my accent won't be so egregious that it just makes the conversation impossible. The idea is to have a real conversation after 100 days. So, if that sounds interesting to you, then please feel free to like, subscribe, hit the notification bell, all that good stuff. During the challenge, I'll be making plenty of other videos detailing the process itself and the traps and pitfalls that I come to and how I avoid them or how I fall into them and climb back out of them. All the things that crop up when you're trying to learn a language quickly, like I am. If you're interested, I'll even make some videos about my background and how I ended up as a pro translator who can barely speak any languages.